Good morning and welcome to the program. This is The Dialogue. It's a Saturday morning. We conclude an eventful week, and it is time to sit and discuss those matters of national importance. Like I said, an eventful week full of historical events, and of course, when we sit, we internalize and bring those matters of national importance into context. My name is Simapolo. The panel is set, and on the panel this morning we have the Deputy Lord Mayor for Kampala, capital city, and Honorable Doreen Nyanjula. Please speak to our viewers as we start the program.
Thank you so much, Apollo. I'm glad to be back here, and good morning to all the viewers of Sol TV.
Well, it is a pleasure again to have Council Simon Peter Chinove on the show this morning. Welcome to the program, Council.
I'm glad to be here once again. Glad that you're listening to us, and I hope that whatsoever we say shall be of value add and of substance to this country.
Welcome, Chinove, and the Honorable Sam Otukol, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Palisa County. Welcome to the dialogue.
Thank you so much, Moderator. I'm very, very glad to be here, and I'm honored for the invitation. I want to say that what we're going to discuss are matters of national importance for Ugandans to know where we are coming from and where we're going. Thank you so much.
Palisa is fine.
Palisa is okay.
Good. Welcome once again, our viewers. This is the dialogue. Like I said, an eventful week it is. We started off with the border opening. After 3 solid years, borders closed between Uganda and Rwanda, borders were opened. And that is a topic we'll just give a few minutes. Of course, we have discussed it this whole week. And of course, it opens opportunities for Ugandans and both Rwandans on trade relations and all those other issues. The question we'll be asking is whether it's now all over, whether one day one or someone will not wake up and then and again close the borders. That will be the comment I'll be demanding from our guests in the studios. And again, on 1st February, well, within this week, it was a historical event at Kololo Independence Grounds. Uganda and French conglomerate Total Energies, together with CNOOC, China National Offshore Oil Company, sealed a $10 billion deal. That is for production and development of Uganda's oil sector, and it includes building, constructing that pipeline that will be transporting or transmitting our oil to the port at Tanga. A very big and historical event. That is another issue I'll give the guests in the studios to make a comment on, and then we proceed to our main topic. Uganda is on the spot again. The security agencies are on the spot for, of course, for the reasons about violation of human rights, especially citizens or people who are brought into detention. And from the statement I read last evening from the U.S. mission in Uganda, there is now concrete evidence that people are being tortured, people are being, their rights are being violated in detention centers, and that's also a dark side of the story. Now, as we open up the show this morning, I think Honorable Nyanjula Doreen, let's talk about that historical event when Uganda and Rwanda opened the borders. A comment in just a few minutes. What do you think? Is it all over, or we will again see someone waking up one day and closing the borders? Are you excited?
Well, I personally do not actually know why people are excited. But this being Uganda, people can easily be carried away by anything. Because if you look at social media, actually people are not analyzing the actual debate. People are simply excited, they are posting photos of women and they are saying, yes, Rwanda has opened. But to go into the topic, you know, for a very long time, especially those that were in the bush, always considered Rwanda to be one of the districts in Uganda. We were saying that one was our 46th district, and Rwanda has always been viewed as an annex to Uganda. And of course, we are talking about a country that has defeated colonialists. So for them to really show that Uganda, look here, we are actually independent, and they had to portray that. And I think we all remember what the Rwanda forces did to our forces in Chisangani. And of course, for me, this conflict has really been ongoing. It's an on and off relationship between Rwanda and Uganda. But most interesting for me is how the border was reopened. Reopened in quotes, because we all know it has not yet been fully reopened. Because we know that for any negotiations to take place, at least in my view, because we have the minister in charge of foreign affairs, we have diplomats, we have ambassadors that fall in there. But we saw the first son going to negotiate with the president of another country. And for me, this really poses a lot of questions. And before the first son headed to Rwanda, he posted on Twitter, at least I know Council Chinove here is very active on Twitter. He posted on Twitter and said, I am going to meet my uncle Kagame. So we need to analyze, you know, and is this really a conflict between Rwanda and Uganda, or this could be a family conflict between an uncle and maybe one of the relatives in the country? And of course, for me, this once again poses a lot of questions. What will happen eventually when Tanzania also decides to close its borders? Will our ministers in charge of foreign affairs be respected, or they will also wait for the first son? And of course, we also need to look at the events that transpired before this reopening of the border took place. Because the first time this issue came out glaringly is when the former IGP was arrested. So prior to the first son going to meet the president of Rwanda, we saw him on Twitter once again praising Kale Kayihura. So if you really analyze these issues very well, he first praised Kale Kayihura, then Adonia Ayebare, who happens to be a brother to Kandiho, also went to Rwanda. And I think one of the conditions set definitely was that Kandiho has to first exit for our border to be opened. For our border to be opened. And for those of us who follow events, we know that Kandiho used to operate a desk, you know, in State House, and he was specifically dealing with the handling of Rwanda issues. Now, for me, the reason I am not excited is because I don't see it being business the way it used to be. And why am I saying this? You know, Ugandans move on, people move on, people look for alternatives. A case in point, if you move around Kampala, around 10 p.m. in the night, around 11 in the night, businesses are closed. Most businesses are closed because now Ugandans had gotten accustomed to operating their businesses, and maybe they close around 8, they close around 7, so they have not yet picked up. But we also know that before the border was before the border was opened, we know there are many Ugandans that lost their lives. We know there are very many Ugandans that lost their lives. So I mean, Ugandans are still living with that fear. Yes, they're still living with that fear. What will happen to us? Won't this border be be closed again. Because if you've been following events, sentiments that have been coming from the other side of Rwanda, for them, they seem to be saying it's not over yet.
Really?
It's not over yet. I listened to the statement of the government spokesperson on the other side, and he seemed to indicate that it's not over yet. The president of Rwanda was also saying for him is not in merely for photo opportunities and events and all that. So for me, I am not excited because I think the problem is not yet solved. And of course, in this entire closure of the border, it is Uganda that was highly affected.
Really?
Because, yes, Rwanda was prepared for this. Rwanda was prepared for this. They prepared their people for what was about to befall them. So it is Uganda that was hit when they were not prepared. And at a time 3 years ago when the border was being closed, everyone was like, Rwanda will not manage. Rwanda will not manage. They will definitely come kneeling before Uganda for the border to be opened. And I think my colleagues will agree that Rwanda proved us wrong because Rwanda continued up.
We don't agree.
Well, they don't agree,
Honorable
maybe they have
Doreen.
their reasons.
Honorable Doreen, you seem to fault the authorities in Uganda for what happened, for closing the borders. You alluded to the narrative that Uganda, the authorities in Uganda look at Rwanda as its annex. Why? Why do you fault Uganda and not in any way fault Rwanda?
You see, when you hear Mr. Museveni talking, when you hear the son talking, oh, this is the army, we are in charge, what? So that is how they operate. They feel they are in charge, and yet in most cases, actually, in most cases they are not. And of course, we are talking about Kagame, who participated in
The Bush War.
Who participated in the Bush War. And my understanding is that Kagame definitely understands who Museveni is. Yesterday, I think you must have listened to him. He was talking about how he's full of revenge, how he doesn't give up, and he's like, even if I don't revenge, my son will come back and revenge. So Kagame being the Kagame that knows the Museveni that we are talking about, after Kagame defeating Museveni in courts in that war that happened in Kisangani, Kagame was aware that definitely Museveni being the Museveni that revenges, the man was going to hit back.
All right,
Yes.
the Kisangani debacle is way back very many years, and I think we might have built capacity. Things might have changed. Councillor Chinobe, let's look at the opening of borders. I looked at the statistics in 2019. The trade relations between Uganda and Rwanda were worth 950 billion. The money Uganda got from trade relations in 2019. But they drastically dropped. It could be because of the COVID-19 pandemic and all other issues. But do you think we should be excited? And again, do you think it is now over?
Well, let me start by thanking His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda. And I think many of us need to emulate him. Because in the heat of passion, while all of us were making noise about Rwanda and what, he chose to keep quiet. That is what they call maturity. And his silence, of course, agitated my brother Kagame more. But I think
he kept quiet. He kept quiet, and it took 3 long years for the borders to open.
To my point.
He was negotiating behind the doors.
And so I want to thank him and commend him for not only being mature and wise, but also for being a gentleman. Now, number 2, somebody said we didn't send our ministers to negotiate and what. And that's where we intellectuals go wrong. We speak too much English, too much useless English. what Ugandans want, especially those that are affected, those that were benefiting from the trade, is to see business resume. And so for me, for the first son, having gone there and resolved what heads of states and ministers had failed to resolve, was very commendable. And we need to give him credit for that. So I also thank him. You did a job very well. And carry on. Carry on.
But people,
now,
people
lastly,
will be asking, in what capacity?
First of all, he's a Ugandan. That is capacity enough. Even I can go and talk to Kagame if I had audience
diplomatic
with him.
relation?
If I had audience with him, yes.
Over a diplomatic issue?
What do you understand by diplomatic relations? It's the affair between nations. So aren't you a Ugandan? Aren't you interested in the diplomatic relations between Uganda and any other country? So what we want are solution givers, problem solvers, not this English you're talking about. Now, number two, he's a senior presidential advisor. So he's not just a nobody. You cannot say as who. He's a senior presidential advisor. And the president can say, you have advised me, you seem brighter than me on this issue, go and handle. And that's his prerogative. Number three, he's one of our generals and holds a rank. We are having issues with a country where we are at the verge of going war. Who more to solve that issue than a general himself? So I want to commend the first son for having done a job well done. Now, lastly, we have already said, and I agree with the president, that we are no longer operating in the jungle, where you wake up in the morning and you say, I'm annoyed with Uganda, let me close a border. That is so rudimentary. I don't want to sound rude, but in this day and era, you don't do, I don't even know what to call it, you don't do that rubbish. Kenya used to do it to Uganda, if you recall. Moi would wake up in the morning and say, I don't like what Uganda is doing. We'll close our borders. Luckily, we had an exit port in Tanzania, so we'd use that alternative. Now, Rwanda is not just a transit for its own goods, but also a transit for goods from Burundi. Now, infrastructure is being developed to go around Rwanda, just because of closing a border. So I think in this day and era where we are all East Africans and have mechanisms of dispute resolution, we go and resolve the disputes there. And at times I think this war was between these two individuals because nobody knows what went wrong. Nobody. We can all speculate it was about this. Some of us suspect it was about espionage. Others suspect it was... But nobody has come out clearly to say what it was about. So in conclusion...
Senior Counsel,
yes.
Before you conclude, really keeping the citizens in speculation for all these 3 years, isn't it really a matter of concern? Shouldn't it have been a matter of importance to table a clear statement, either in Parliament or anywhere, for the citizens to know what is going on in this relationship between these two countries?
This is what I think. Several statements have been issued explaining.
But you say even now, you said and you admitted that there is uncertainty over what actually really happened between these two countries.
No, yes, we don't know what happened between the two countries. There are accusations and counter-accusations, but statements have been made by government on progress and what is happening. Now the border has been opened. So while
is
people...
it enough?
For what?
Is it enough to open borders now?
I think it's a starting point. It's a starting point. Borders have been opened. People in Kisoro, in Gatuna, Kabale can now at least make some money from selling food to Rwandans. And I think that's a step in the right position. Now, somebody said that some people consider Rwanda a district of Uganda, and I think that's very unfortunate because it's not true. We need to remember that the history of Uganda and Rwanda is closely intertwined. You can't can't separate it. And for our viewers who are still young, I will just give you a brief. When Habyarimana, first of all, I won't talk about the history of Rwanda, the battles between the Hutus and the Tutsis, the majority, the minority versus the majority, etc. I won't go into that, but that led to a genocide. And the first genocide we had was in 1953. And you had a flux of refugees that came from Rwanda and settled in Uganda. Most of the generations of the Rwandese we are seeing now don't even know what Rwanda looks like. They grew up here and they were born here. And that's what informed that constitution provision that added Rwanda as a tribe in Uganda. Because these people came, they've been born here, they don't even know what's home. Some of them know a bit of their history, but that's how Rwandans come to Uganda. Then you have somebody wake up in the morning and say, go back. And then Habyarimana's plane is shot down. But these boys who had grown up here, the Kagames, let me even speak respectfully so that people don't take it out of context. These young men, these gentlemen, these leaders that had grown up in Uganda and were part of Regema, Paul Baingana, Paul Kagame. You have so many of them had grown up here, had established lives here, and all they wanted was to be recognized at home as Rwandan citizens. Habyarimana said no. So they went back. Now, they take the reins. But these are gentlemen that have grown up in our houses. These are gentlemen that have grown up in our country. I have people that I know in the Rwandan government that grew up in my father's house. And not as slaves, not as servants, but as brothers and sisters and as equals. That's the accommodative bit about Ugandans that we all love. So when we say I'm going to Rwanda to see my people, or the extension of family, that is the bond. When you see Muhoozi saying my uncle Kagame, they may not be related by blood, but they grew up together in a home with this young boy called Muhoozi, looking at Paul as an older brother, as an uncle. So we shouldn't take things out of perspective. Go back to history and say this person who is saying my uncle Kagame, where does he come from? Where are all these words coming from? And I think that's why it was even easier, because now if my president Museveni is an elder statesman, so my friend Paul Kagame is also an elder statesman, but he's younger in age. So there may be a difference in opinion and perhaps authority. So let this young boy who calls you uncle go and resolve the problem. And he has resolved it. Ugandans should be very, very happy that the dispute is resolved. So it's a good thing that the border has been opened. I think there are many more things that need to be interrogated for us to get closure. The Ugandans that were killed, the Rwandans that may have been killed, the counter accusations that have been made, and these can be dealt with diplomatically. The East African community that we are trying to set up, and every young person, anybody my age and young, should be interested in this East African community. Because Uganda has become too small for us. We are now a dwarf. You know, the president keeps saying the contest of dwarfs. You say, oh, I'm big as Uganda, I'm big as Rwanda, I'm big as Kenya. We are just all dwarfs playing game at we now need to chill with the big boys. We need to bamba. Huh? And the only way we can do it is if the East African community and the East African integration happens. So I call upon our people, read Read globalization,
Good.
the power in numbers, the market growth. We now have excess. Whenever I drive on Wandegea, my sister knows because that's her constituency.
charge.
Yes, she's in charge. She's our boss. But when you drive on the streets of Wandegea now, you can get 5 pineapples for 10,000 shillings. How many dollars are those? Those are about $3-4, thereabout. In the States, a fresh pineapple that tastes as good as ours will go for up to $20. What's the difference?
So the issue is market.
Exactly.
We
Now,
need
the
market
only way you help these peasants who are farming, these poor people who are trying to make a living,
Expand
is
the
by
market.
expanding the market. And that only happens through globalization, through helping. When we help Somalia, we're not just helping Somalia for free. At least they will buy our goods. When we help Sudan, we are not helping Sudan for free. At least they will buy our goods. When we go into Congo, we can make noise, but we are creating a market. And those are things I think all political actors need to be interested in. You don't want a
big
country
question,
that doesn't have a thriving
the
economy.
big question, Senior Counsel Chinobe, is it over? Do you think the way the matter has been handled, the delegations that have been involved in this particular matter, is it over?
I don't think it's about the way it has been handled. I think it's been handled as best as it can be handled.
Good.
But what I think is that not everything has been resolved. And that being said, I think remembering the history of the two countries and the bond by blood, by the way, our leaders need to sit and talk and agree as brothers.
All right.
Because what they fail to agree on above there affects all of us. My sister was saying Rwanda was not affected. We have been affected more. My friend, people in Rwanda are starving.
Yeah.
The rate of inflation in Rwanda is high. And these are facts. They are not political, they are factual.
Yeah.
So why is that so? So that shows you that actually both countries have been affected. And that's why it is important. And for both countries, both citizens, leave alone these streets being tossed around by people in high offices in SCs. But the citizens who are benefiting from selling to Rwanda and from buying from Uganda are happy. They are rejoicing. They're actually saying, what can we do better to make sure that the situation that has persisted for the last 3 years does not happen again? And I think as politicians, as leaders, as lawyers, we should weigh in to, first of all, congratulate Paul Kagame, my brother and elder, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, and my president for doing our job well done, but also advise them on how to do the next phase.
Thank you. Thank you, Senior Counsel Chinobe. And Honorable Sam, Parliament, even this week, has been consistently demanding for a clear statement on opening of this border. Are you really excited? Are you really contented that this is over?
Yes, moderator. First of all, I want to say the opening of the border is a very good thing because it is going to help our citizens and both citizens of different states, that's Rwanda and Uganda, to do business. But to my view, personally, it is not yet what? Over. Why? We can't just say we have opened the border for trailers to cross. Those are goods, because you may find that goods which are crossing are mostly maybe from
Other countries.
in transit. In transit done, because our people who benefit so much from as the Uganda government, we benefit a lot because of taxes. You talked of billions of money, but also as the locals between those border areas who carry small businesses across, and they buy cows this side, you go and get some money this side, not yet benefiting in that border opening. So I cannot be very, very excited, but I know that's the step. And I want to congratulate the General for negotiating that opening of the border. Because
maybe we need, I don't know, Honorable and the Council and Honorable Nyanjula, we need to interrogate this fact. At what point did the General Muhoozi Kainerugaba step in? Because what we saw
let me put in
at the last end. That's when we saw him.
Let me finish that point. I believe if you look back, the history between Uganda and the Rwanda, what the Honorable Dorin was saying, we had some mistakes with the Rwanda in the Congo. That's very true. You have been Uganda and you have been here for long. And I believe the matters which led to the closure of the border were concerning, if I insinuate, it was about security.
Okay.
Rwanda is so much suspicious of what?
Of Uganda.
Of Uganda, which is not, I think to me as a member of parliament, is not true, because Uganda made Rwanda.
Yeah, isn't that
that's something I'm very, very bold. Uganda, Rwanda of today, Uganda made the peace. Uganda. Yeah, not extension.
But it's a fact.
That's a fact.
Yes, Tanzania helped Uganda.
Yes, Tanzania made Uganda.
Yes.
Because you know what happened? We ran to Tanzania. They helped us fight Amin, and they made us. And we have been good friends, and that's why you see there's a very cordial relationship between Uganda and Tanzania, and we respect Tanzanians, both when we were there and here, that they helped us, and you know what happened.
So we should consistently claim for that respect, really.
No, we shouldn't. But respect comes.
So when I pay your school fees as your father, do I demand for a refund?
Do I demand for a refund or
you don't?
You don't.
But there is mutual respect.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think both countries ought to mutually respect one another.
Okay.
Sorry.
Moderator, the truth is that Rwanda is a state of its own.
Yeah,
we
true.
need to respect them, and Uganda is a state of its own. But there's that suspicion between Uganda. Rwanda is always suspicious of Rwanda. But what you should know that very many Rwandese ran to Uganda during that time of when the current president was not the president of Rwanda and Uganda. He left and they remained here. So the issue of Rwanda should be sorted by Rwandese, not Uganda. It is Rwanda. We wake up one day and say they have closed what? The border. You cannot now blame that, take that blame in Uganda, because Uganda has never closed the what?
Yeah.
The border.
Our border has always
Our border has been, somebody wakes up one day and says, I've closed the border, not for 1 month, for 3 years. And the Honorable Doreen was saying that they were ready. They were not ready. Rwandese have suffered. I'm telling you, when we get news from the corridors of parliament, buses were booked like for 3 weeks for Rwandese to come to Uganda before they realized that it was actually only cargo which was what? Allowed. And there's a lot of illicit movement between those borders. So it is not only, Rwanda was also prepared and Uganda was not prepared. Well, okay, it has actually affected East African movement of what? Goods. You don't talk about Uganda, it has also affected Kenya, because there are very many goods from Kenya which cross Uganda and they go to Rwanda, Burundi. So it has affected the region, and that's why when we talk about East African community, we are going for integration, and you are closing what? The border, which can be negotiated. You know, Angola came in, you are quiet, you had, and you look at those provoking words. Don't look at photos. Don't look at. There's still something to go. Which actually, what we are talking, there must be a statement from both governments to make citizens sure that what you are going in, it's not happening tomorrow again that the borders are what? Closed. But also, for General Muhoozi to go and negotiate, that's very good for Uganda, because when you look at the general negotiating, these are security matters. You may find that the minister who is appointed, like, let me talk about
we have ministers
of defense,
of foreign affairs and ministers of internal affairs who are actually generals also.
Who are also generals.
They would have done the job.
Exactly.
They would have done the job, and this thing cuts across. When we look at the borders, it cuts across very many ministries. There's also Minister of East Africa, who's the Right Honorable
Rebecca Kadaga.
she would have been the lead even in this then foreign what affairs, because this is a matter of East African community. So, but these are things which have stayed for long, 3 years. I wasn't a member of parliament. That was my former member of parliament was Honorable Jaco. So these are things which have taken long, and everybody seems there must have been a negotiation between intergovernments. And you were talking things which Angola president was negotiating, and they failed. So when we get someone who says no, let's move on, and he negotiated for us a deal, for me I think that was a better. There's some life now in that board.
Really?
Yes.
But you think it is not over?
I think it's not over.
It's not over. Honorable Dorin, a quick comment. Honorable Otukol raises an issue of security, that this could have been a security matter that led to the closure of borders. Then it necessitates some people, big people from security circles, to negotiate the opening of borders.
Thank you so much. You know, growing up, I had always wanted to be a lawyer. Until I reached campus.
Well, I thought until you met me.
And I failed anyway to do law because I joined campus on a quota system, and well, so I couldn't. And it has always been my dream to be a lawyer. But when I sit on a TV set with one of because I've heard you call him the senior lawyer,
yeah, he's the senior
counsel, and then he says it's okay that the first son can go and negotiate.
No, a general in the Ugandan army.
But he's not the only general that we have in this country. There are so many generals.
So it would have been different if another general had gone and not him.
My friend, we are talking about me, because you are a lawyer. I expect you to be respecting institutions. I expect you to be looking at the rule of law. For me, that is what I am looking at.
So which part of the law was breached?
Well,
let's talk the law.
Now, we are saying we have institutions in place. We are saying we have ministers in charge of foreign affairs. We are saying we have the East African minister. And for you, you're saying there is no law that was broken. Museveni's only son can go and negotiate on our behalf.
So your problem...
For me, I am saying this is not a family conflict. This is a conflict that has rendered so many Ugandans unemployed.
People have died.
This is a conflict.
So your problem with Muhoozi negotiating is because he's the first son.
That has left so many Ugandans dead. This is a conflict that has left so many Ugandans dead. So for me to think that it can only be the first son to go and negotiate on our behalf, and you sit on TV and you find no problem with that, I think
so your problem is that the first son...
a problem.
No. Where is the problem? So
to negotiate.
So
on our behalf.
it would have been different.
When we have institutions in place, when we have ministries in place, I am sorry, I don't find that proper.
Okay.
If you find that proper,
you'll get your time.
Yes,
on that.
I really.
Personally,
I don't find that proper because I know if it is negotiations, we have institutions in place, and these institutions ought to be respected. But also from the way they have been debating, they are talking, oh, those ones are our brothers.
And indeed they are.
Yes, and for me that is the mentality. That is the mentality. I don't think Rwanda likes that approach of, these ones are our brothers.
You are not Rwanda's spokesperson.
And therefore, that is how we have always looked at them. No, these ones are our young brothers. These ones have been here. And I think for Kagame, that does not scratch him right.
Yeah.
That does not scratch him right. Still thinking, yes, these ones are our people. Fetu Abayamba and all that. And for me, I think, honestly speaking, the problem also originates from there. So, yes, we can all sit here and say, yes, the first son has done this, yes, Museveni has done this. Imagine
why? If I may ask you, why do you think it has been made the way it is? Why would what you call, well, he is the first son, be part of these negotiations? What do you think could be behind the whole issue?
Well, I think really this is obvious. People have been talking about the Muhoozi project. And for me, I think the man is simply being initiated. He's moving from here. He said he was first going to meet his brother Uhuru. Then he said,
That's a
did.
very
He
good
met him.
initiation.
yes,
because
then he
he's
said,
performing.
I am going to meet, I am going to meet my uncle in Rwanda. Then I think next he's going to meet his mommy in Tanzania and all that. And you know, for me, I think that is where we are heading. For me, that is what I see. I don't know what he sees, but for me, that is what I see. You know, usually things begin like that.
But Honorable Doreen,
Usually things begin
A moment. Let her conclude.
Usually things begin like this, and people are like, no, this cannot.
I just wanted to
this cannot
interject
be
on that
true.
one.
Okay.
There is a very, very clear way of somebody becoming a president of Uganda. Whether he's the first son, Honorable Doreen, anybody who will present himself.
Or even myself.
Even yourself.
Even you.
Even myself.
Apollo. Yes, the
Uganda, the
constitution is
constitution
clear.
has a very clear way.
Which constitution are you talking about?
Well, how
You're
many
not
do we
gonna-
have?
How do you become honorable?
That one which
How-
is changed every now and then. When they want to change, they go beat Uganda and it's brave.
But it made you
And that is the
deputy mayor.
constitution
But-
that-
but-
that is the constitution
But
that
that's
we're
why you're a
talking
very
about.
big person in Kampala.
My friend,
very
that's
big
why you are
person.
our boss
You
because
are-
of the 1995 constitution. But
So,
I think,
There's a
let me
Very clear
respond.
way of becoming a president of what?
Let her make her
Counsel, before you
concluding
come in.
remark, and then we.
And you see, because I listened attentively to Counsel when he was submitting, and he was saying, you know, we are all speculating. And for me, I thought, at least for him as an NRM insider, maybe he's not speculating. Maybe he knows the cause of the conflict. But he also said, you know,
He's
we are
still
here
also
for 3 years, we are all speculating, we don't know what is happening. And for me, honestly speaking, these are not issues between individuals.
Okay.
These are issues that are involving the livelihoods of so many Ugandans, just like you put it. These are issues that are involving the livelihoods of so many people in Rwanda that have lost their
All right.
businesses.
Let-
But we all do not know. And we also know, because I heard him talk about
And
the
we
East
ought to
African
know.
community. And we ought to know. I think we ought to know. Well, we saw, of course, Uhuru first tried, he failed. The president of Congo also came,
Tshisekedi.
tried and also failed.
There's
And then,
one of Angola.
Angola, he also came and failed. Until when Muhoozi says, I'm going to visit my uncle.
But a few days before he went, Adoni Ayebali, a diplomat, also went there.
Now,
Let-
before
let-
you
let-
say
let
Adonia,
me- let-
because you also need to know the selection, for me, I think it was deliberate.
All right.
Adonia
let-
Ayebali
let
is a
me-
brother to Kandiho.
You know, when I hear my sister, talk respectfully, then I know Museveni has so many problems, so many problems, including her. But when we say our brothers in Rwanda, our brothers in Kenya, our brothers in Burundi,
That is in the spirit of
my
East African
sister
community.
Nyanjura, my brother Honorable, we are tied by the bond of the East African community
And Pan-Africanism.
and our history
That's not the spirit
and
of-
Pan-Africanism. So when I call you my brother, even when we are not bound by blood, you know, these people think you are only brother and sister because you have the same father and mother. No, we are bound by historical ties and the East African community. So whether my elder Kagame, General, is offended by us calling them our brothers and sisters, that's his problem. Me, I have my sisters in Rwanda, I have my brothers in Rwanda, and they have me as a brother here in Uganda. I even have others in Kenya. In fact, whenever I'm going to Kenya, I'm like a king because my brothers and sisters in Kenya come to embrace me. So I don't think we should read more to a word, especially utmost good faith. Okay. I think Ugandans need to understand the theory and principle
But
of utmost
council,
good
senior
faith.
council, senior
And-
council, the bone of contention is,
Yes.
should it have been
That-
General
That's
Kainerugaba?
that's what I'm going. That's what I'm going to.
General Kainerugaba.
Now,
I mean, being the link man, being the final, the final arbiter in this matter.
Because I have been a lawyer for so long, and I will give an example. A lawyer, a person paid me to go and help them fight a land conflict. When I got into the conflict, I realized the land he had built on did not belong to him, but he's put up a billion structure. So I had an option to speak the law and lose the case, or to go to somebody that knew this old man that could talk to him with a soft heart and allow him to
save this
exactly
development.
And that's what I did. I went to an old man and told him, help me talk to your fellow old man. Omumanyi mukwano gwo nyamba ogenda tutaase ekizimbe ky'omusajja. And it worked out. So what's the moral of the story? That this English we talk about is good for the books, but the president and the nation at times has to think outside the line. And I'll give an example. We had about 3 heads of state try to intervene. One of them was the late Magufuli. You have my brother, His Excellency, the President of Angola. Together with you have my brother, and there were actually quite a number. There was also the President of the Republic of Congo. You have my brother Uhuru. I was even there when this issue was coming up. And everybody tried their best. Okay. But they failed to resolve. First wait. No.
And here comes
let me finish. Let me finish. And then you have also the various ministers. I remember some Honorable Sam Kutesa was the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He also tried. And then we have also ambassadors at that level. So there were a lot of exchanges. Everybody was acting in utmost good faith to make sure that this conflict is resolved. And finally, the son,
the magical,
yes, went and solved the jigsaw puzzle, wow. The Rubik's Cube. He solved it. And my sister has a problem because he's the first son. Your problem should be with whether he has broken the law, number one, and number two, whether he's done a good job or not.
Honorable Doreen raises the issue of institutions. We have the East African community. What role has it played in resolving this conflict?
You know,
we have diplomats at all levels who have been in charge of this.
So you are making me repeat what I have already said.
So they are all useless.
Kenya indulged. I'm not saying they're useless. They're not. They all tried, but they did not resolve. So are you saying we as Ugandans, all these institutions having failed, we should have sat and said they have failed, we have institutions, they have failed, but we shall not send Muhozi because we have institutions? How selfish.
Well, that's good.
How
Thank
selfish.
you so much. Let me get a final comment from Honorable Otokoro. The issue of institutions, respect for institutions and building strong institutions, the East African community. Actually, I haven't seen a statement from Right Honorable Kadaga Rebecca, as the Minister of International, East African Affairs. At what level has she participated in negotiations and the subsequent opening of the border?
I don't want to...
And where does this leave the East African community and the whole process?
I don't want to comment about particular person, like Right Honorable Kadaga. I know she has done a lot. She was the Speaker of Parliament when all these issues were happening. She must have put her hand somewhere. And she's a new minister, I think, less than 4 months since she was appointed as the Minister of East Africa. But the truth is that what the Council is saying, we might be talking about General Muhoozi, and yet all these, the institutions are sitting, because Kadaga is a member of the cabinet. And I don't think Muhoozi can wake up and is sent to Rwanda before cabinet what? Because some of these cabinet ministers, we don't know. They come later, because if it is a confidential, a matter which has a confidentiality between the government and what? The government. It might not come out fast, but we might learn them later. The statement will come. Okay. But when we have saved, when states have saved what? The station. What we should be proud of now is that the border is what?
Yeah, true.
Opened. True. That is my last comment.
Okay. And I think, gentlemen and the lady, time is fast moving and we need to move on. But as we conclude this hour, Council Chinobe, do you think we need a clear statement, because Parliament is now demanding for a clear statement stipulating the terms of closure so as to avoid a scenario where a leader will wake up one day and close borders.
Now, of course, it goes without saying that government should explain not only the terms, but the milestones achieved in resolving this dispute. Because, as my sister said there, I agreed with her, that yes, it affects Ugandans. It has affected people's businesses and livelihoods. And I think these people in parliament, in their uselessness, deserve to go back to their constituency and explain that this is what the state has done and this is what is anticipated.
Isn't
so
it long overdue?
I think it's, well, long overdue. Lawyers, well, timelines, what is long overdue? What is long overdue? Because things are unfolding as a going concern. So I don't think it's long overdue, but I think it should be and must be done.
You still admit that the uncertainty still rooms on why their borders were closed and why we have suffered from both sides for all these 3 years?
In my view, yes. In my view, yes. And I think that statement shall make those issues clear. But at times, water under the bridge is better left there.
Are you convinced that the East African community has played its role in this particular issue? Its mandate, has it really worked its mandate?
I think the East African community, within the bounds of its limits, has done a very good job in trying to resolve the conflict. Remember, resolution of a conflict comes from the willingness of parties to resolve the conflict. It doesn't come on how much English you speak, on how good you look, but on the ability of both parties to desire to change the situation. That's what we're seeing now. And you see, we may give accreditation to General Muhoozi and all these people, but we need to know that arrival at a solution arises from somewhere. So all these things, when Museveni is meeting Uhuru, when Museveni is meeting Tshisekedi, the president of Angola, when the Minister of Foreign Affairs goes there, these ambassadors, all that culminate into the success that we are seeing. The gentleman that went last just sealed the final deal. But you cannot give him credit for having done it single-handedly.
Well, thank you so much, our viewers. The program is The Dialogue. We are going for a quick break. And when we return, two pending issues. One, the final investment decision will give us a few minutes, just a comment, and then we go straight to our main topic, the escalating cases of torture, cases of extrajudicial killings, cases of illegal detentions. Uganda is on the Honorable Sam Otukor, the Member of Parliament for Palisa County. We are looking at matters that transpired within the week. We are looking forward to another big event, the Talesita. Actually, the celebrations are today. Already they are going on, and it is the day when the NRA fired the first shot attacking Kabamba Barracks in 1981, another historical event happening in this country. But talking about historical events, the deal that was sealed this week, $10 billion deal to develop Uganda's oil resource and production, is another issue that we cannot just leave aside. And I was talking to Honorable Eric Karuhanga, one of the key stakeholders in this oil production sector, and he told me that it is not just $10 billion, it's a deal worth $20 billion. Councillor Simon Peter, you must be excited about this.
Very.
He's easily excited.
Honorable Eric Kalanga
You would know, wouldn't you?
Honorable Eric Kalanga told me that this investment is worth the economies of Burundi, the economy of South Sudan, and the economy of DRC. Okay. It's a big, big, big deal. Speak about it.
So I'm going to try and unpack the FID very briefly. We call it the final investment decision, and also try to use as less technical terms as I can, so that people can understand and appreciate what this means and why we are making so much noise about it, and why I am excited about it as I am excited to see my sister Doreen. So we'll try to unpack that. Now, the final investment, so we've had oil exploration and all these things. People went, they discovered the oil. There is a whole history of the discovery of oil. It started in the 1900s. Actually, before the 1900s, the locals had seen oil oozing out of Albert, but they didn't know what it was. When the colonialists came, they said that is oil. But then there was a rumor that it evaporated. When Museveni took over power, the Shell was preparing to explore, and they wanted the president to sign agreements very fast with them. But Museveni admitted he was ignorant, he didn't know these things of oil, and he didn't have his people. So he sent people to study about this. Shell changed its mind, said the oil had evaporated. Our people that had been educated by government came back, did their tests, and they discovered there was actually oil in the Albertine region. And you know, specifically chose those areas of interest and started sourcing for developers. That's where Heritage, Talo, Sinok, and Total came in. So we started hearing about drilling. Now, drilling and prospecting. Is there enough oil? Is it commercially viable? What quantities? All that stuff has been happening. Then we realized that it's actually commercially viable. So the parties agreed we shall set up companies for the different nations handling this petroleum thing. So you'll have you'll have one in Tanzania where all this oil money and investment will be put. But also the partners, the parties decided we shall invest this much. Now we are at the stage, we haven't started getting oil. We are at the stage of getting oil. And so this stage is critical, because this is when we talk about the pipeline. So how are we going to get our crude oil from Hoima, Kabale, to Tanga, and in preparation for the international export market? So we are still talking also about things like the refinery, etc. It's a big, big bundle to unpack. Compensations of lands, environmental degradation, best practices. So there are so many things. So finally, what the final investment order means in Luganda, zintadde sente mugende mukole. I have released money, go and work. So that means if you are a subcontractor or a contractor in the oil industry, you're a contractor, you're a welder, you're a builder, now we are going to see actual activity. Camps will be built. So that's employment for Ugandans with the skills. Welding will be done. That's employment with Ugandans, for Ugandans with the skill. Drivers will be employed. I know drivers are now being employed, hired to drive trucks, etc. Camps, roads are being done. If you've gone to that region, I was there. I enjoyed my stay there. The roads are very, very good. Lawyers, we are going to start now officially consulting both for government and for the subcontractors and contractors on what the best deal is. So we get paid. So basically that means money has been released to do these activities that will lead us to being able to export our oil. Well, in brief, I hope I have tried to unpack it as simply as I can. So it's a good thing, because whenever money is released, everybody benefits. If I get my legal fees, I will buy somebody's land, or I'll hire somebody to build me a small muzigo, or I will buy a VTs somewhere. So economy, everybody benefits from that money, and that's why it's a very good thing, because first we get the first fruits of the investment leading to the final fruits of the petroleum.
Thank you. Madam Doreen,
Yeah.
it is expected that when production starts in 2025, Uganda will be producing at least 220,000 barrels of oil every day. $10 billion is going to be injected in our economy. Are you not excited that this time round our economy will get a big boost?
Thank you so much. You know, unlike Councillor Chinove, I'm not really easily excited, given the fact that I have been here also for some time. And we have seen how Mr. Museveni will come out and say 2020 middle income status. By this year, this will be this. So really, that is largely why I'm not excited. And just to give you an example, I come from Toro region. We are known for tea production. And I can tell you that if you go in Toro, at least each family has a tea plantation. But do you know how much we get in return? For a kilo of tea plantation, the farmer gets 50 shillings. 50 shillings. For those who do,
but
for those who do the
Toro
weeding,
is not one of those regions that are categorized as in our economy and statistics. You are not doing bad.
well, but I'm talking about tea production here because it's that one area that excited everyone. When you go to Busoga, I don't know where Councillor Chinove comes from. When you go to Busoga,
Perhaps
Ricardo.
Soga. Ricardo.
you get it. Everyone is talking about sugarcane. People stopped producing food crops, and they're all looking at what? At sugarcane. And we really all know the outcome. And for me, I think when I go to the oil city, I've had my brothers and sisters from there talk about oil city, and you ask them, but what do you know about the oil? And trust me, they do not know anything beyond them saying they come from the oil city. And this takes me back to where we came from when we are talking about the conflict that has been between Uganda and Rwanda for the past 3 years. Do we even know, before we even go to the final investment decision, the contents of the agreements that have been signed? You are a journalist. I could ask you, do you know the contents? Or we are also waiting for another, I don't know how to call it. We are waiting for another incident that will send everyone into shock, like what happened with the Uganda Airlines and all that. So for me,
at least for this agreement, we are sure that Uganda has been given 15%.
That is what I'm talking
Tanzania
about.
15%.
And the other one 70%.
The other one 65%. And the Sinok and what they are
that for Uganda and Tanzania
8%,
we are talking about
others 8%.
we are talking about 70%. We are talking about 30%. And then for the rest,
30% on what?
Ours is 15, then Tanzania
yes,
15.
that's what
On
I'm
what?
calling it.
Those are two different
On
things.
this pipeline,
That is-
this particular project of the pipeline and developing Tilenga, is it Tilenga and Kingfisher?
So
Those
that
two
is
projects.
what
Minus the refinery.
That is what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. And I do not understand what this whole excitement is about. If we are talking about 15% and then 70%,
65 is for Total Energies and Sinok.
65 actually thought it was 70%.
No, it is 65.
So what exactly is there to excite us? And for me, allow me talk on behalf of the ordinary people, because I also happen to talk from people that come from that area. What is happening that side, there's also compulsory acquisition of land.
Hasn't there been compensation?
Yes.
I had a statement
You
that
see.
compensation has been done.
Let her finish. What she has forgotten is that I come from there. But let her finish, and then I will address that issue.
You see,
But go on.
You come from there, but you also tend to argue, of course, keeping in mind that you're also an NRM cadre.
But
I have not said there is no compensation. But when I have settled in an area, and then you compensate me, give me money to go and relocate somewhere else, definitely there are consequences that will come along, right? You're not sure whether where you're going the land is fertile. People have problems, and they can always divert their money and all that. So that has been one of the challenges that the people from there have been complaining about. And then too, of course, this whole process has not started now. I think since it comes from Hoima, we know that oil was discovered way back, I think around 1997. And of course, they claim there was ADF that side and all that. So it has been a process that has been ongoing. And I think for the business community, not only in Hoima, but also in Bulisa, but also the business community somewhere else. They have they bought equipment, made themselves ready to make money, and I think they were disappointed because that money has not been forthcoming. And of course, we are talking about oil. I don't know if Mr. Chinove here is aware. I don't know if you have friends that have been sponsored by the taxpayers' money to go and study courses related to oil and gas.
So the opportunities?
Yes, the opportunities. For me, I can tell you all that I have seen, those that have been sponsored by the taxpayers' money, these are people that support the regime. So for me, I cannot be here and...
But Honorable Nyanjula,
and I say that...
Honorable Nyanjula, a deal has been sealed, 10 billion US dollars. It has been sealed. That is for sure that money will be pumped into our economy.
Exactly.
To do all the work and production work. Can't we be excited about that?
That money has been pumped.
In our economy, it will be in this project, in this particular project.
You see, like I have said, okay, it has been pumped, but what is the outcome? How can I be excited before I see the fruits?
Okay.
How can I be excited before I know the impact? Is the impact going to be negative or positive? For me, I do not believe in giving this government that has let us down for so long a benefit of doubt. Okay. I really don't do that. I first maybe wait for something to happen. Because they have been told the same.
So you're a pessimist.
Oh, no, I believe I prepare for the worst.
You wait to see the fruits.
But you who is always thinking things are going to work out, and they do not work out. That is why I'm talking about the business community, who thought they were going to make a lot of money, and they have all been let down. But I've also had some people argue that that a certain percentage has been ring-fenced for Uganda. And I think when they were asked what exact services Uganda is going to be providing,
the job opportunities.
Yes, the job opportunities. We are told about catering, we are talking about transportation and all that.
Even selling our products.
Exactly. I mean, we shall always go for the lower things, cooking food, transportation, and all that. So for me, honestly speaking, there's nothing for me to be excited about.
All right.
I'm not expecting a miracle. I'm not expecting a miracle.
Briefly. This is a big deal.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a very big deal for Uganda, and the Ugandans must be happy about it. Although you shouldn't be very, very excited about it.
Why?
I am a member of NRM. And when I talk about issues of national economy or matters of national, we must talk across. And I want to tell you that I've been myself to the oil fields. I was in Tilenga, where Total Energies is. I was at Kabalia, where the refinery is going to be built. Actually, at Kabalia, I was very excited because of the second airport we have got. It's very, very big and nice, actually, and I'm very, very happy. Let's be there as supporters, but the airport will be in Uganda for the rest. Let's not see, Honorable Doreen, there are some things you do, but they remain with you.
Yeah.
Like when UNRWA was doing a road between Palisa and Kumi, these people came and Arabs contracts came and built some good structures in there, and they have remained in Palisa. So they are still helpful for what? Palisa. So let me talk about what I saw there. We saw the airport is almost getting ready, and the refineries, the land has been cleared, and Tilenga, and then the Kingfisher. I mean that community of natural resources, which actually supervises those projects. So what I want to say, there are two issues here we have not understood as Ugandans. Number one is the ECOP, that oil, like
East African crude.
That's what we are talking about, 15 what? %. But we are forgetting that we have the refinery, which is the almost 100% for.
Even we have other projects.
Yeah, we have other projects coming.
Oil projects.
The oil
coming
projects.
up.
So me, when I went for supervision, I went there, we took a week in that side, and I saw the economy will boost. But also, let's say Ugandans not only think about oil. Oil has brought a lot of, oil will bring its own development. But oil can also boost another part of the economy, like food. If we now grow our food, and we say, that's why when we were processing that bill, Doreen, I want to tell you that I was part of those people who processed that bill of, or the ECOP bill in our sector. We stood so much firm on the local what? Content. Because these people even wanted, if you looked at the one who amended, if you read the other one, these people wanted even import eggs. They wanted to import like things like avocado, chicken. But this one we said no. It must all be Uganda. So as other Ugandans are running to do business with the oil, other Ugandans should boost the agriculture part of the economy so that we sell to the oil what? Sector. The only problem I see is if we really boost our council and tell every Ugandan that we are going to be very okay because of oil alone, and we don't put as government a lot of money in what? Agriculture sector, we might even see problems like we see in Nigeria and so on, because everybody will think about oil, we are not producing, and we shall buying food from our neighbors, Kenya, where, and they will take this money. So what I can tell Ugandans is that the oil, it should be 50, and agriculture sector should be what? 50. If we were to get this money from these people all, and it remains in what? Uganda. But if we lousily go and think about oil alone and lose money from agriculture what? Sector, we must invest also so much in agriculture what? Sector. We shall benefit as what? Ugandans. And this pipeline, one benefit of it. When we talk about oil, we are talking about oil is not something to stay for 200 years. It might be there for 40 years, 45 years, and the oil is what?
It's an exhaustible resource.
Yes, it will go away. But the oil, the pipeline we are building, when we talk about it, is that when these people go away after paying their loan, Ugandan government should be able to negotiate. There's a lot of oil in Congo, Sudan,
and use the
there's a lot of problems now in Sudan. We shall use that very ECOP to take it to, and Ugandans will benefit. As we must discover more oil from Karamoja what? Region where it is said we have a lot of oil in Karamoja what? Region and northern what? Uganda. So this one, even if it is not our own oil from Uganda, and we now tap that one, because if you look at Tilenga, I don't know whether you have been to Kingfisher. If you at Kingfisher, it is just local, but you cross, you can even watch Congo on the other what? Side, where there is a lot of what? Oil. And they cannot now, Congo cannot build a new what?
So these projects that we see, the road constructions in Congo are not in vain. They are not. We can now tap. Actually, the main factor is that this pipeline will now be able to export all the crude oil of eastern and central parts of Africa. So Uganda will still get some money. If we now take oil from Tanzania to Tanzania for processing, we shall get what? Transit what? Money, like you see about South Sudan and Sudan. Sudan is getting a lot of money just on their way. So thank you, Honorable, and we must move on. It is time now we go to our main topic for discussion this morning. Yes.
This was a warm-up.
This is the main. Uganda is again on the spotlight for harassment, for degradation of human rights and violations, and I not need do much introduction about it. It has been all over social media. The issue has been in Parliament. Actually, the opposition have boycotted plenary sittings for 2 weeks just because there hasn't been clear response from government. And I will wish to start with the Honorable Doreen. You have been passionate about this particular issue. We have seen pictures of people who have been brutally brutally tortured. I don't know how this pans out, really.
You see, I'm not just passionate. I'm a victim of torture. On my face, I carry some scars which have been inflicted on me simply because I oppose the Museveni government, simply because I hold views that are divergent to the sitting government. And I should say I have been arrested more than 20 times. And definitely most of the times I have been found innocent. But before I even go there, you see, torture comes in many forms. When you see our people from Busoga, when you see now it is Rukunjiri moving with jiggers, when they cannot comfortably walk, for me that is also torture. When you see our parents, most parents suffering from pressure because they cannot afford fees, because they cannot afford to send their children back to school after COVID-19, for me that is also another form of economic and psychological torture. You see, before you realize that you have bed bugs in your house, when you eventually get to see the bed bugs, you just know that the situation has moved out of hand. And I think I would make the same comment about the political torture that we are currently witnessing in this country. And over and over again, we have been telling people, even some of those that like Council Chinobi, some of those that support the ruling government, when we tell them that so-and-so was tortured, even his manhood can no longer function, the body was burnt, they all say it can't be. This is not the Museveni that we supported. Now, most of the times when this torture is taking place, it is not done on camera. One time I was arrested from Kasangat when Dr. Besigye was coming back from South Africa after the 2016 election. And by then we had started a front which was only spearheaded by women, and I was commanding that women team that was protecting him. I was brutally arrested. I was beaten at the scene. And whoever watched that clip said Nyanjula has really been brutally arrested. But that was just a very small percentage of the torture that I was subjected to. When I was taken to Kasangat police station, that is when the actual torture took place.
In police cells?
Because there were no cameras. I was rearrested, my head down and my legs up, and I was seriously beaten. At the scene where I was being arrested from, there was no police officer who was supposed to take photos and share with the bosses. So they had to again rearrest me and beat me for that police officer that is meant to take evidence of the torture so that he captures that moment. And that is the time I actually started putting on glasses because I was seriously tortured. I spent close to 6 months when I was down with headache. And you know, for so many Ugandans thought the torture had ended during Amin's regime. Many thought the torture had gone with Amin. So many of them get shocked to see that the torture is currently happening. Now, unfortunately, this torture is supported by the so-called president of this country. Because you will go on TV and say, Bobi Wine was beaten properly. And he really shows you that he's so excited about that. And we have seen people who have participated in torturing us being promoted, and no action has been taken against them. Over the weekend, I was home in Chenjojo district. And I met one of the survivors of the Captain Magala incident. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, at Mengo.
When Besigye was visiting Bulange. There's a survivor called Haruna Byaruhanga. Up to now, he has never received any justice. And yet the person who made him like that, permanently disabled. Up to now, he has to move with he still has to go for medical reviews, and he spends a lot of money on medication. But the person who subjected him to that is walking scot-free. And I hope today, on this talk show, my brother Councillor Chinobe will from his heart will use the opportunity to apologize to my friend.
Who did I torture him?
Well, you were here talking that he wasn't tortured. Even when they were telling you that the guy was what? The guy was tortured. I remember the council was telling you, but the wife saw him. His clothes were full of blood, and you're saying that is not true. So at times, before, much as we love NRM so much, I think before we start defending what we do not know, we can at least give a benefit of doubt. People saw Kankwenza, and they were all like, oh, this man has when they eventually saw the images, they were saying, this man has really been tortured. But actually what they have not seen is the other parts that they have not seen, that actually is what he has was.
We have seen the back. We have seen the back. We have seen the legs. We have, then that means it is worse more than we may think.
Definitely, it is much more. We are also talking about the psychological torture.
Okay.
We are talking about the damage that is not visible, because most of the damage is not visible. And we are also talking about the justice, because this guy was tortured, but they had to first keep him in cells. And this is what they do, Councillor Chinobe, just in case you don't know. And you know, I talked to one of the police officers whose name will not mention today, but in future he will, who told me, yes, you arrested your friend Kankwenza and we massaged him a bit. So when I got the images and the video, and I was like, oh, so is this the massaging that you're talking about? So they are not even apologetic. They are so proud of their actions. And you're telling Ugandans. For me, when I keep looking at these images, when I keep looking at these videos, I tell Ugandans, they said Hitler is long dead. For me, I think we live with a Hitler here in Uganda.
Okay.
That even our security forces, for me, I find it wrong for us to call us here for a talk show and you start talking about security forces. When we talk about security, we know these are people that are supposed to make sure our freedoms are respected. We know we are talking about people that are supposed to make sure our rights are respected. I think we should start using the correct description. We are talking about vampires. We are talking about beasts. These cannot be human beings who can be so proud that, you know, they have tortured so and so up to death. We have very many Ugandans, you know, moving with broken limbs. We have many Ugandans who only have one hand. We have a friend called Kamswaga, and actually I've been inspired to work on a book titled The Unsung Heroes, those that oppose Museveni, because many are not known. But those of us who are in the struggle, we know the price that Ugandans have had to pay simply because they hold a different view.
Okay. Thank you so much, Council. When you look at the pictures that are running on social media and everywhere, pictures of Kakwenza, pictures of Samuel Maseruka, and we have talked about this for very many years. The countries like US have imposed sanctions on our journals for the same issues, but this vice keeps popping up its ugly head.
Okay, so let me I'm trying to unpack the many things she has said. And let me start by first of all stating that it's not the policy of this government and of the party that I support to torture people. That as it may be, it doesn't mean that the system is perfect. So you always have rogue elements that keep infiltrating the system. Yesterday, I had an outburst with one of the people that is even talked about in the mustard seed, Dr. Warren Namara. who heads the health monitoring unit in State House. Now, this man has a badge written on State House. He feels almighty. His word means nothing. He violates the law. Because you see, when you're talking about torture, people don't understand that torture can be physical, but can also be mental. You do not have a right to hold a person beyond 48 hours. Once you start acting illegally, you are delving into arenas of, first of all, corruption, in arenas of illegality, in arenas of torture. You're opening that Pandora box. And for me, yesterday, after interacting with Warren Namara, I was very, very disappointed. Because this is a person I hold in high esteem. But these are the people that have brought a bad name to government. These are the people that have brought a bad name to government. And let me say this. And I am hoping that our president will make his speech. He's already made one condemning torture, and we are waiting for another. And not only just condemning, some of these people need to be brought to book. But let me say this for citizens and people in our, those errant officers, those individuals in our security forces. One, we did not make the law. You did not make the law. The people of Uganda made the law by which they shall be governed. And I will start with the preamble to the Constitution. We, the people of Uganda, recalling our history, which has been characterized by political and constitutional instability, recognize our struggles against the forces of tyranny, oppression, and exploitation, committed to build a better future by establishing a social, economic, and political order through a popular etc. It goes on. Read that preamble. It will remind you of where we have come from, where we are at now, and where we should not go. So, and I keep telling people that when you come to the rule of law, when you come to issues of constitutionalism, it is not a political, this is actually an individual and yet at the same time a national issue. It doesn't matter what political color Nyanjura, my sister, wears, or my brother Sam wears, or even myself. I will sing for my party. I love my president so much, and that's why I'm glad it's not state policy. But when it comes to torture, we all sing the same song as Ugandans. It is not
Council, that's where the big question is.
Let me go on, because
that is where the big question is. If it is about us all, how has your party, how has the commander-in-chief of armed forces responded to these grievances?
Yes, so we all know he made
If we care, if we really care,
now,
what have we done?
Let me finish my point. First of all, he's made a speech condemning torture and warning people.
Is it enough? Is it enough?
Number two, we have mechanisms in the law to address such torture.
Have they worked?
I am still educating. You know, before you interject on whether they have worked or not, let's educate people a little bit on issues of law. Because for me, the issue of torture, really, why would you have to torture somebody? Why? So let's educate people.
You see, Council, wait a minute, Council. Council, you assume that the perpetrators, wait a minute, you assume that the perpetrators do not understand the law. That is your assumption.
You know, I like giving a benefit of the doubt. Article 24 of the Constitution, and I will go straight to the content. No person shall be subjected to any form of torture or cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment. Now, when people like Warren Namara arrest people and say, I have power to arrest you and detain you beyond 48 hours, I will interrogate you until you drop dead, I will disobey. You know, a man who is cited says, I will disobey a court order. Who are you? My friend, a court order is supposed to be respected. You have no choice, whether you agree with its contents, whether you don't like it, whether you hate the judge, whether you weigh him by what it doesn't matter. He's made a court order that ought to be respected until set aside or reviewed. So, guys, these people that are giving a bad name to our president, these people that are giving a bad name to the state, need to watch the space. Because now the law, you have the Enforcement of Human Rights Act and other laws that have created individual...
Yeah, prevention and prohibition
yes,
of torture.
Of torture, yes. So there are
2012.
so many. And I think what we need to first of all appreciate as Ugandans is we can make noise here and say it's so and so, it's so and so. It doesn't matter. This is not a government institutionalized torture.
Really?
And I think we need to start taking remedial steps against these individuals that commit torture, that violate the law like Warren Namara against the citizens of Uganda.
I would wish to ask you what remedial steps are you talking about? What should we do?
I will give you an example.
If we have the laws
Yes.
in place and they have not been respected, what else should we do?
This is what I can say, and this is what I am doing. Yesterday, having realized that my clients are being held incommunicado, my clients are being held beyond the 48 hours, and all this is legal. You cannot hold. The law says you should have access to your lawyer. The law says you should be kept in a gazetted place. And there's a reason, by the way, why the laws are there. People who don't read may not, they think these wise men who wrote the 1995 Constitution were so bright and put it there. No, every clause in our law has history. The reason we said do not hold people in communicado
Beyond
is so
48
that
hours.
there is the ability to monitor that if my brother Sam has been arrested, I should know that Sam is not being tortured, both mentally and physically. Now, Namara tells his investigators that lawyers should not be here while we are recording statements. What does the law say? That you have a right to representation. In fact, the law even says you have a right not to record a statement. And say, I'm not going to say anything. I am here, but I'm not going to say anything. Now you have somebody, because they hold a card, giving instructions. Don't allow lawyers here because they bring Rugezi. My friend, you are breaking the law. So one of the remedial steps that needs to be taken, one, get an unconditional release order. Let it be disobeyed by those who feel.
Most often.
Get a writ of habeas corpus. What we have not seen is what happens thereafter. We need to take the next step of having people charged with contempt of court. We need to have people charged for violation of human rights and pursuit of remedies individually. You see, when you are talking talking in the name, and I say in the name because it's false. But talking in the name of the state, you feel so mighty. But when you are isolated,
you've been in courts.
Yes,
you've been in courts of law. Do we have a precedent where a security officer has been brought to justice?
Oh yes,
in acts of torture.
Oh yes, yes. So many. There was actually a case, and I think, unfortunately, I don't remember the parties very well, but I remember there were Muslim clerics, and they were brought to court with marks of injury. And I remember the presiding...
Isn't it unfortunate that after
asked,
all these cases,
you
struggle to find a case?
He's really struggling.
No, I am not struggling. I am giving you facts. If you had asked me
after all these cases of torture that we have...
Can I complete? You asked for the examples. And we all know that when those clerics were brought to court, and the judge decided to descend into the aspect of torture. And he awarded damages of, I think, 80 million or thereabouts at the time, yes. I remember there is also, yes, that was, I think, the Kawesi murder. So I know these facts, but because I didn't know I would give specific examples, I don't have the exact. There was also another case of somebody, I think, this was so terrible. But let me give you another example. She said I'm scratching. I know my facts, and you'll relate with those facts.
But to remind you,
if you remember,
remind you, counsel,
Yes.
That is government money. The money that we gave, that we compensated those Kawesi victims, is government money. We are talking about that
yes.
perpetrator, that security agent to be incarcerated or given punishment for torture.
And that's where I come in to say that lawyers, citizens, need to take the initiative to move court. So if we do not move court and come here and narrate, all we are doing is narrating and politicking.
Which court are you talking?
So I think we need to move.
Let me hope council have the powers to do that. You can move court.
And
let's wait for you to move court.
Wait on Monday. I want to assure you on Monday.
Thank you.
I am going to start moving court.
Let me give Honorable some time. Talk about these illegal detentions, incarcerations, and harassment and torture that has been meted on citizens.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say I condemn torture and illegal detention seriously in Uganda, because in Uganda we have come a long way fighting this illegal detention and torture. And one of the reasons why NRM took over the government was because of torture and illegal detention. We shouldn't be hearing about torture, illegal detention, and so on, because as a member of parliament, I was elected in the NRM party. I meet with the Honorable Asnas from Hoima. But when we meet in the parliament and we move in a committee, you can even know this is NRM, this is NUP, this is... We are all talking about issue of what? Uganda. What pains some people, even many people in NRM are also tortured. I want to give you an example of when the president gave an order of second lockdown. Had sworn in May 20th as a member of what? Parliament. The president was very clear. He has stopped movement of cars from one district to another district unless if it is an emergency. Motorcycles can carry luggage. In my county, Palisa, that order gave security officers to arrest anybody in the road. They get you riding a luggage. You are arrested, detained, 300 what? South, and that was also what? Torture. Were those not NRM people? They are NRM. Until I went in, I called DPC, and DPC was not aware of what, they had erected the roadblocks everywhere. So let me come to real torture.
This torture should stop, and the government must do something. I've liked the deliberation of council. We are all condemning what? Torture. Because it is not tomorrow it will shift to one place. Because let me tell you, moderator, what really causes torture in Ugandan security forces. It is building a kingdom within a security. Really?
Yes, it is. You find council has got more powers. There was a time when even an SPC was more powerful than the DPC. Did you know? There was a time the former GP, an SPC could dismiss a DPC. So when you build such a cartels of power, within security forces, there will be a mess. Because I would arrest the council, torture in my room, and DPC cannot say anything. So what happened? The president reacted by dismantling this cartels. That's why things a little bit better. But things were going out of hand. If we looked at what was happening in those 9 years, actually the last 3, there was real more torture than we are experiencing today with the current IGP.
It is getting worse.
Maybe you are getting worse because you are seeing these photos. But those 3 years, I've been in Uganda before, of course, Ochola. There was more torture. And we experienced a lot of deaths in the TV way, and so girls were dying and so on. And people were claiming a lot of money from parliament, one do this and so on. But also what is happening, I think we are all condemning what they call torture. Because if somebody is arrested, he's a lawyer, present him to court, let him defend what? Himself. Okay. It's considered as a crime. But let's all condemn torture, whether you are NRM, you are FDC, because anything can come tomorrow also. But to me, let's look at what is being built in security. One person is more powerful than
another person. A small person is more powerful than a general. A general cannot say anything. This captain can say what he was talking about in name. That one has built Namara.
Yes.
That one must have built more powers. I don't want to say something, but next time we will get time. I will get time.
Because time is running
because
out.
you find a detective sergeant.
Honorable Doreen, you only have 2 minutes to wind up. I don't know. He talks about, I think what he's talking about is impunity. It is impunity, and he talks about cartels. Just
Now, I want to state here on this day of 5th February 2022, without fear of contradiction, that as long as Museveni is still the president of this country, people are going to continue being tortured, people are going to continue dying. And they say this because they have seen it happening, because they have seen Museveni praise those that torture, those that oppose him. We all know, for example, Chitata.
So, yeah.
He was one of the most respected, very powerful, praised, even by the president himself. But the president knew that Chitata was behind the torturing, the murdering of so many Ugandans that were not supporting him. We all know that Kaihura was highly praised and his contract was being renewed every now and then. Where did he score the most? In torturing those that do not support Mr. Museveni. We all know his problems came later when he was suspected to be working with Rwanda. So I speak this and I know it. Let us do a scanning and look at Ugandans that have been tortured. It is Ugandans largely that are saying we do not support the NRM government. It is Ugandans who are saying we believe Uganda is not a kingdom, we need change. Those are the Ugandans that we have been talking about. And these so-called security agencies and the security forces we are talking about, they know the instructions that they have. As long as you're protecting Museveni to stay in power, even when you kill, even when you torture, you're protected.
Okay.
No one is going to come after you. And for long we have been telling Ugandans that this is not just about Besigye. Because I can tell you in my heart of hearts, Segirinya, Alan Sewanyana, they never imagined in their lifetime that at one point they will be tortured and taken to Chitalia and charged with whatever they have been talking about. So, fellow Ugandans, we have been telling you, there's this common saying, and I think he knows it, that first they came for the capitalists, we didn't speak out. They came for the trade unionists, they came for the Jews, and we all kept quiet because we are not Jews.
Until
they came for me. And I think they have come for us.
Okay.
Ugandans, you need to rise up. You need to speak up. You need to fight.
No.
All right. Thank you. Council, does it cross your mind that what she said?
He's the next victim.
This is what I have to say. The torture of citizens in Uganda has nothing to do with Museveni. It has.
He is the commander-in-chief. He is the commander-in-chief of armed forces.
Let me finish my point. It is not state policy that torture is permissible. And for me, I think Ugandans, the moment you politicize it, then you are subduing the dissent voices. This is a national issue. It should not be permissible in any society anywhere in the world in this day and era. And it is wrong. We should all unite in condemning acts of torture, cruelty, and inhuman degrading treatment. Let's follow the law. The law is there. The law is there. Move within the principles of the law.
Your president has called our
do you see it coming to an end soon? Because we have spoken, we have done everything. The laws have been drafted and enacted. Do you see it ending?
I think we are in a place where we can move towards stopping it. And what I'm doing now, what I need to do now, what we need to do now is call upon our president to prevail upon those errant officers.
That is important.
That is very important. We call upon him to prevail upon those people giving us a bad name, those people giving our country a bad image, those people that are acting outside the precincts of the law, like Warren Namara and his other
No, even
friends.
talk about CMI and all of
All those.
Okay. Our viewers, it is time we walk out. It's been a good time having you on the show. We didn't get time to look at your responses and messages. I must thank the panel. Thank you so much, Honorable Doreen. Thank you, and it's a privilege having you on the show this morning.
Thank you so much for always having me around.
It's a privilege having you, Councillor Chinobe.
Thank you. It's always a
Thank you, Honorable Sam Otukol.
I want to thank you for Salt TV for always having me around and following matters of Palliser County.
Good.
And I want mostly to thank your journalist, Ora. He's always going to Palliser and carries stories in Palliser. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, our viewers. Time to walk out, and we'll be returning next week on Saturday. My name is Mapolo. Let's hope somebody listen to this and something will be done. Good afternoon and a good weekend.